Hey, y'all, I just wanted to get on here real quick and say a little something before the start of the first Truth and Tracks Thursday. Um, some of y'all may not like the genre of music or what have you, but it's all about preaching the gospel. It's all about getting the gospel out there. Uh, to me, it's all about just as long as the gospel's being preached. And I know some people may not agree with that, but Mark 16:15 says, "And he said unto them, Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." Matthew 28:19 through 20 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the world." Amen. So Jesus commanded us to go out and preach the gospel. Now, I know some of you may debate on whether or not, you know, style, uh, context, or you may say, well, that's not preaching the gospel. Well, who are we to say it's not? Who are we to say that just based off of a style of music that the gospel's not being preached? I've known many people that the Lord has touched. The Holy Spirit has convicted them, or they've in a very dark place in their life. Some of them was thinking about suicide and killing themselves and just throwing their whole life away. And they heard a song. The Lord had placed a song in their life. It may not have been a song that or a style that we may not like, but nonetheless, the Lord used that style of music. And First Corinthians 9:16 says, "For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of it. For necessity is laid upon me. Woe is it to me if I preach not the gospel." Romans 10:14 says, "How then shall they call on him in whom they have not believed? And how shall they believe in him of whom they have not heard? And how shall they hear without a preacher?" And the last thing I'm going to use, first, sorry about that, I had a little bit of a hiccup, but First Samuel 16 and said, a lot of people like to use this verse where they try to, well, I ain't going to get into all that, but the Lord said unto Samuel, "Look not on his countenance or on the height of his stature, because I have refused him. For the Lord sees not as a man sees. For a man looks on the outer appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." So, with that being said, let's not get so hung up on a style or the long hair or the way they look, which is, we all do it. I've been there myself. We all do it. So let's show a little grace, a little mercy, and I also like to add, if you're a band, and I'm not going to limit this to just one style. I've reached out to some other people, and I have not heard back from them. So, it's not for lack of me trying. I've reached out not just once but multiple times uh, to people that you know that I listen to. I listen to different styles, but so if you're a band and you want to come on to Truth and Tracks, just shoot us a message, um, and we'll get something scheduled, and we'll be praying for y'all. Y'all be praying for us, and just remember that just because it's a style that we may or may not agree with, sometimes we could get on that bandwagon and get too far focused on, like First Samuel says, on the outward appearance, and not look at what's being done behind, the look, or behind, you know, what all the show, more or less, or the music. But I'll stop that right here because I don't want to get too far into this. But once again, I've reached it. I'm not going to limit this to one style of music, and I've reached out to other people that I listen to that's more contemporary, and I have not heard back from them. So y'all just be praying. And once again, if you would like to come on and discuss what we'll have a discussion, and just reach out to us. All right. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Um, this is Steve Anderson with Stand My Ground Ministries. Tonight we are premiering our very first episode of Truth and Tracks Thursday. We hope that you enjoy it. Uh, See, this is just not about music. This is also about truth. It's about faith, and it's about standing for Jesus Christ in a world that wants us to remain silent, no matter what genre of music we play. Tonight, we got a powerful guest with us, a band that's not here to blend in. It's a band that's not watering down the message. Weapons of God out of Dayton, Ohio. Um, they're bringing real, they're bringing a real message, real conviction, and their music actually means something. Their music has blessed me, and we're about to break it all down. Actually, it went a little bit different than what I thought. Um, I wasn't expecting it to go into the direction it was going in for our first episode. If you like it, hit the share button. Let's get this out to people who need the truth. Um, like I said, it went in a totally different direction. Uh, the reality of it is that too much of what is out there today ain't about Christ. It just don't hit it. It just don't meet the mark of what Christ represents. So tonight we're going to stand on something real. We're going to we're going to get into a little bit of what they're about. This is Truth and Tracks Thursday, and this is Weapons of God. Um, Make sure to give them all their links is in the description. Their links for their YouTube, Facebook, Bandcamp, even their own website. You can find all that in the description. So make sure you give them a like, you give them a thumbs up, you go and support their ministry. Same with ours, Stand My Ground. You can also find our links in the description as well. You can also find links for our if you'd like to donate. We have a Cash App and a Venmo. You can also donate that way if you want to see us try to get better equipment to where we're recording better. Or if you just want to support us, either way, if you just want to show support financially towards the ministry, we greatly appreciate everything that you give will go towards the ministry, and we greatly would appreciate that. Also, we also have a sponsor, Bernie's Best Chompers Pets. You can go to the link that's in the description as well. You'll find 20% off if you use the code Stand My Ground. You get 20% off of your order. Like I said, this first one didn't go exactly how I expected it to. If you notice, there's times that I keep looking over to my right. I had made some PowerPoints that, because in case I forgot something, I made some PowerPoints. And the thing is that I cleaned my desk and I threw some papers away and ended up throwing away my PowerPoint. So when I'm introducing the band, when I get to introduce Leon, the guitar player, you'll notice that I sort of look and I look sort of like befuzzled because I'm looking for my PowerPoints. I'm like, it's when I realized that it was gone. But let's get in there. Let's show Weapons of God some love. They're out there fighting the good fight of faith. Uh, like I said, you can go to the description. In the description, there's a link to their Facebook, their YouTube, their Bandcamp. Just go and support them, show them some love, let them know that what they're doing means something, no matter what style of music it is.
You can also give Stand My Ground. Our links are in the description as well, and also the links to our Venmo and our Cash App if you want to give. Also, like I said, our sponsor, Bernie's Best dog treats and dog vitamins. If you want to hook that up, links in the description. You get 20% off your order. Just use the code Stand My Ground. I appreciate y'all for watching. Let's get into this first episode. And like I said, it didn't quite go the way I wanted it to. It went into a direction that I wasn't expecting, but I really enjoyed it. I liked the direction that it went into. So let's show Weapons of God some love, and here we go.
Tell me when I'm telling lies. Go ahead. Say it.
Because truth don't bend.
And it don't break.
Jesus' name. Light in the fire, voice in the storm. Truth is rising.
We are reborn. We don't bow, we don't break, we don't run from what's at stake. Chain snap, hear the thunder crack. Truth and tracks, we attack. Truth tracks.
Stand your ground.
No turning back. Truth
Tracks. Fire in the wood.
we attack. Say it. Say I'm wrong.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Truth and tracks. Thursday.
This is Dave Anderson with Stand My Ground Ministries, and we are doing our very first official Truth and Tracks Thursday. And with us tonight, we have the band Weapons of God out of Dayton, Ohio. As some of you may or may not know, I lived in Ohio for a while myself, up in Defiance. So we'll meet the guys here in a second.
Battle on battle, time to hit the road. Metal geek, Jesus freaking missionary mode. All in, pull the pin, nothing more to say. Double battle, Madison to blow you all away. And
asked Ed, weapons of God. And bottom, what would be my right is Steve McGowan.
Hey,
Am I saying your last name right?
yes.
And his sister-in-law, Rochelle.
Hey.
And then to the guy hiding to my left on the bottom is their guitar player, Leon Black.
Greetings.
Upper left is the drummer, Jason Harmon.
Hey.
So with that, let's all welcome Weapons of God into the very first official episode of Truth Attracts Thursday. Like I said, Weapons of God is hell. You guys, all of y'all are from Dayton, right? Or are y'all scattered, sort of, kind of?
Dayton's
Yeah.
where we rehearse, play, we're scattered around.
Is it all in Ohio though? Or is it
Yeah, we're all like within 45 minutes from each other, maybe, if that.
I have a pastor friend of ours. He lives up in Tip City.
Oh,
Yeah.
His church is up there in Tip City.
what church is that?
Been up Redemption Tabernacle. Todd Hoskins
Hmm.
is the pastor.
Name sounds familiar.
Got a big old open field backed up in there. They just built a big old youth center up there and everything. So
Nice.
his church has been slowly growing throughout the years. It's getting bigger. But let's discuss everything that's weapons of God.
All right.
First off, you guys just released an album not too long ago called Tribulation,
Yes.
and I've noticed throughout the other releases, this one it's slowly progressed what I would consider more like a groove metal vibe, more like a sludgy groove metal with a lot of crunch, which I really love that.
Thank you.
Is that the kind of sound you guys were shooting for, or have you slowly progressed into the way you're going?
Oh no, it's just whatever we write is what happens. I mean, there's different varieties of sound that happens when between the four of us writing songs. I mean, there's songs that have a similar sound to Maiden, to like the doom gloom music, and I don't know. It just depends on what's brought forward to the table.
Have you guys ever thought about? I know I'm going to go left field here a little bit, but on the last songs, which is a trilogy.
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about doing a whole album based off like a trilogy, like when the Ark of Sea has done one, or Believer back in the day?
You mean
We
like
used to do all kinds of stuff like that.
a concept album?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think we've tried to or even really talked about it. At least not intentionally, but
Right.
I mean, there's sort of a concept in a sense, I guess, but that's more about song order, I think, than it is about an actual whole, like a whole concept that flows through the whole thing, other than, the gospel. That's the concept.
That's true. That is definitely true. Do you guys feel like you guys are on the forefront of keeping Christian hard rock metal alive as far as your message goes and the boldness of your message?
I mean, I don't think so. There's a ton of other bands out there doing pretty much the same kind of thing. Maybe not musically exactly the same, but spreading the same gospel.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm not sure what you mean by forefront. I've heard people talk about Christian metal, say Christian metal is dead or is it's dwindling or whatever, but I don't see that from my perspective. I'm introduced to new music on a regular basis that is good music and bold. So
Right.
yeah, I don't think that. I mean, it's nice to think that we're part of it, keeping it going and getting the message out there. But yeah, I don't think we're fighting any battles in the sense of this genre or whatever you want to call it, falling off the map. I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just that you hear different things throughout the last few years anyway about Christian metal losing its edge or losing its boldness, and I'm with you. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I believe there's plenty of bands out there that are even up and coming that you know or is not ashamed of spreading the gospel in their songs or in their message.
Right on.
And I believe you guys are totally part of that. And which leads me to your lyrics. I know I know you draw inspiration from the Bible or Scripture. I know I'm be correct in stating that, but what exactly goes into your writing process?
I think we might all have to speak about that individually. So I think we all kind of approach it in different ways. Um, I tend to, whenever I write, just speaking for myself, I tend to look at things from a Christian worldview, regardless of what the actual topic is. So I guess anything that I would write would not be considered by anybody probably to be like praise and worship type stuff. So in I guess the more literal sense, but
Right. I totally understand. I get that. That's one of the things that when one of the things that I like about Christian rock or Christian metal or Christian whatever label you want to put on it. They that genre as a whole tends to speak about things that the church don't want to talk to per se.
right.
You know, just like you said, you come from a worldview on it. It's like me and my wife 3 or 4 years ago, when we first started our ministry, our whole goal was to reach those that we feel the church has neglected, as far as the drug addicted, especially that group of people, the ones that are addicted on drugs, those that are living on the street. So that's where our ministry comes in at, and I've always been one that has never been. I've always looked at Christian metal or Christian hard rock or that.
You can just
I really don't want to put a
you
label
can
on it.
just say metal. Metal's fine.
Uh,
It's all metal.
all right, I just because I know there's some people like, oh, it's not, it's this, and that.
Oh
Well,
no,
man, we
no, you ain't gonna
preach
get any of that
Yeah.
from us. I mean, it's all music. Usually, people that write music seriously don't pay attention. At least that I know of, the ones I've played with don't really pay any
right,
attention to what kind of style you're writing. I mean, you may have an idea when you set out to write a riff or something like that. Most of the stuff that I write comes from just playing,
right,
and I play through a whole bunch of just nonsense until something sticks, and then I stick to that, and then I build around it. Kind of like Jason was saying lyrically. I mean, I write from a Christian worldview. I think some of the lyrics of what would be considered songs that I brought to the band weren't even written by me. They were lyrics that were written by guys I was in a previous band with. That a guy that was Christian that he and I kind of snuck in Christian themes into our secular band, if you would, at the time.
Right.
And then the other stuff that I've written is largely, I don't really set out with any particular goal. It's just when you get a few lines or something that pops in your head and you won't leave you alone, and you kind of grab that pen and then you sit down and you start to write, because I still write on paper a lot. I've got folders and folders of paper. Not that I don't write on the computer too, but something about sitting down with a pencil, and I do a lot of edits as I write, I think. Just because you come up with different ways to say things, or different lines, different words maybe that make the point better. But I try to mostly write about life experience, and we experience the same things that everybody else goes through, Christian or otherwise, and it's more about how you approach it. I think with a Christian background and being a saved individual. I don't get as angry as I used to get. There's still a little anger in there, I think, but it's just, as you mature, you realize that, some of these things are bound to happen. We know that it's going to get worse, more than likely, before it gets better. And, you just write that from that approach of, to me, something that's got a positive outlook, because my outlook is positive. Even if it's a bad situation that you're writing about, the ultimate takeaway is going to be something positive, and that's kind of how I try to live my life. So,
yeah, and it's kind of like what you said earlier. Sorry, I had some service issues here, but the stuff that the church doesn't want to talk about or address are generally things that people want to hear or even need to hear, and vice versa. They don't necessarily want to be, preached at. I mean, if they do, they can go to church or, whatever. But, yeah.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that, because I myself, there once I can say, you start off with good intentions, and then you get influenced by other people, and they try to steer you into a different direction.
yep.
And I I I was telling some people about this a couple of weeks ago, that you know sometimes you just got to look at yourself and take a long hard look in the mirror and say, God, this is not where you wanted me to start out at. This is not the direction you wanted me to go in. And I had to really take a really long hard look and say, you know what, I got to get back to what the Lord was leading me to do. Have any of you guys ever felt that way?
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean,
Sure.
I think that feeling is what I'm doing currently is a direct result of that feeling. So I played in a few secular bands here and there, and I even played bass in a cover band for a while with a close friend, and I've always kind of wanted to be in a band doing original music, and sharing the gospel. It's something, I've listened to Christian rock and music since I was, little. And even though I still listen to all kinds of music all over the place, styles, and, I don't listen to Christian music exclusively, but I find a lot of times that music that I'm listening to, if it does not have anything positive for me to take away from it, then I'm not drawn to it as much anymore. I look for something that I can, that can build me up as opposed to tear me down. I do enough of that in my head on my own. So music's a great way to lift yourself out of a hole, so to speak. So the last thing I want to do is for that to become a tool in my life that's going to push me down or make me depressed or upset me. There's nothing wrong with a good sad song and all that kind of thing, but ultimately the takeaway, for me, needs to be something that's positive and reinforcing to a positive, approach to life. or it just gets tiring. I get tired of hearing some bands that want to whine and complain and pitiful me and I'm so sad and everything's so bad and used to always tell me that life. I even had a song about that I wrote at one point in time called Attitude, and it's it's about your attitude, and if life sucks, then it's probably because you suck. So you need to change your attitude.
Just to dance around the issue a little bit there.
Like you said about, you guys talking about the church not wanting to confront things. I don't know what churches, I guess I do the public commercialized church, I guess, but churches that I've been to and attended, I don't think I've ever been someplace that I felt like I couldn't talk about anything that I wanted to talk about. There's always been at least an individual, if not multiple individuals that have been in churches with that, you can say anything that you feel needs to be said. Doesn't mean that there's not somebody there that don't want to hear it, because a lot of times the things that you're led to say are for someone specifically, and a lot of times that specific individual doesn't want to hear it. So doesn't mean it can't be said anyways. You gotta have a little compassion and try to gently correct people, I think, but you don't always know who that is. You may say something that you just think is offhand and doesn't mean a thing, and it may have, tremendous impact on someone else, and you don't even know that it's happened. So
I can really concur with that, because sometimes I'll go preach somewhere and I think I just totally flopped, and next thing you know, a day or two later, I'll get a message or something, and somebody will be like, "I love your sermon. It was meant for me," and I'm just like, "Wow," you know. It just amazes me how the Lord
God knows what He's doing.
can work. And you think you're doing the worst job ever, but the Lord is using it to His glory.
Right on.
You know, and like I said when Stephen first came on, I used to live in Ohio, up in Defiance, and the what's the word I'm trying to find here? The acceptance of like Christian heavy metal, Christian rock, that genre is more accepting up there than down here in the South, in Virginia, Southwest Virginia, where I'm at. It's still a little bit touchy subject with some of the churches down here. Do you guys run into any of that?
Yes.
Anywhere where it's like, we don't care if you're singing about the Lord or not, just because of the sound, it's still the devil.
There's been many times I've talked to different churches and places here in Ohio, and they won't have it. They can't get past the sound of the music to listen to the lyrics. And it's like they don't understand what you were saying earlier about, how it reaches people, and the people that are being rejected by the normal church. This music reaches them. And we've seen it a lot of times.
It's almost like, gets some out there that have growling and screaming that's going on. That's not my cup of tea, but if somebody out there is getting the message and they got it and that's their thing, hey, glory to them. They got it, and it's just a shame that I wish the churches could see that, and some of them do. You got to think, when Striper first came out on the scene back in the 80s, parents were losing their mind over Striper, thinking they were a gimmick. They were acting like all the other 80s hair metal bands at the time. They thought they were fake. They wasn't true to the word. And I know a lot of friends of mine in high school during the time, they got saved and baptized because of Striper and their music.
Yeah.
So
yeah, my parents would fall into that category where they just are not fans of anything close to what we do. But to my mom's credit, she actually did sneak into a show about a year and a half ago, and she said it was really good. But to the folks that think that music that's edifying or music that is glorifying to God has to be a certain way, I always pointed back to the Bible and was like, well, is a harp okay? Is a flute okay? Is, all these other instruments okay? Well, all those instruments were used by Nebuchadnezzar for very terrible purposes, for the folks to bow down and worship the golden image. So, the music portion of it, it can create certain moods or whatever, but really it's a tool, and it depends upon how you use it.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I never really was a Striper fan per se. I like Soldiers on the
This
Moon.
interview's over. I'll see you later.
I'm a Raiders fan, and now I don't like
Raiders fan. He's a Raiders fan. He hates Striper. It's like, man.
Oh man!
Don't say anything bad about Randy Rhodes back here on the wall.
No, he was a good guitar player. Do you what's this here? How can I word this question?
While you're thinking of it, I would just add to what Jason was saying. My mother and father in particular. My dad is no longer with us, God rest his soul, but he was basically bluegrass and gospel. And if it wasn't bluegrass or gospel, it wasn't music. And he didn't want to hear it, had no interest in it, no matter what they were singing about. So, and that was the truth with, Striper, early Bloodgood records and things that I had that I came home with, that, it wasn't so much that he was opposed to it outright. It was more of, it was not his thing. And like, I sat with my mom when we released the second album, and I took her a copy of the CD and basically sat in a room with her while she listened to the entire CD and went through all the lyrics, with it, and sat there bobbing her head along with it. She said she thought it was good, and then she promptly gave it away to my brother-in-law because she knows she's not going to listen to that, And then I've played, a couple of the newer songs off of the new album, and her only question or comment that she made to me was, do you guys ever play any normal music? So I'm not sure what she means by that, probably, but being with her background and her age and everything else, she's probably referring back to Dad's lingo of, it's got to be bluegrass or gospel, or it's not music.
I know for me, I lived out in California in my teenage years, and a friend of mine's mom, she was big into church and Christian, and I didn't want nothing to do with it. She gave me a Petra tape to listen to, and I took it and I listened to it, but it didn't really amount to nothing. And then once my parents, we moved back down where I live at now here in Virginia. A person that I met gave me a cassette, and it was California Metal, I believe it was, volume 1 or 2, one of them.
I got those.
And it had, I'm pretty sure it had Bloodgood Crucify on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord used that song right there. And I tell everybody to this day, that as soon as they start harping on Christian metal, and they're like, oh, nothing good can come out of it, I'll be like, hold on a second. Because as soon as Les sings that song, that part says, I washed my hands of this man's blood, that part right there it just gripped me. The Holy Spirit just got a hold of me and done something right then and there. And it just progressed from there. And from there is where I tell anybody, and everybody's like, listen, don't knock something just because it's not the style that you like.
Right.
And going back to what Steve was saying about the growling, and I don't really get into all the growl and all the death metal and all that. But if the Lord can use that to reach somebody, who am I to say no? The Lord can't use that.
No, you would be wrong if you said that.
Yeah, there's a whole culture built around that.
Yeah, because going back to when I was 18, 19 years old, when my friend gave me that cassette that had Crucify on it, it was the same thing back then. Well, the Lord can't use that, but He did.
Yeah.
And going back to what Steve was talking about Striper and how he knew people that's got baptized because of Striper and all these years later, Striper's still hanging in there. You know, and Michael Sweet just now came out with a solo album, and they're still doing it, still hanging in there, and still spreading the gospel.
Yeah, go read sometime what Michael Sweet's got to say about the album Against the Law. So that was my feeling with that album when it came out. I felt like, wow, they've become just like everyone else. They've lost everything that I liked about them. They're not singing about the same stuff. The music is dumbed down. I literally returned that cassette to the music store I bought it from, and I've never bought it again. Now, I've listened to bits and pieces of it over the years, and I still kind of have the same opinion, but they took their eyes off of what they were being led to do and thought, hey, we can do better if we do this on our own. And that's their worst selling album. And it did not do well. And I think they were shown that, you know, when God says you're going to do it this way, this is the way you're going to do it, or it's not going to go as you think it's going to go.
Right. Well, I know when they came out with that album, that's all I heard, especially from some in the church. Like, see, we told you. Yep. Even though I didn't, even though Steve, I wasn't a big Striper fan. You know, it's like, see, it's all, they're just chasing the world, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, oh man, you know, it's just like, well, now we got to dig in there even more, and hopefully, I was glad to see that they, you know,
realigned.
There
you go.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
See, I think it wasn't Reborn. I think it was Fallen.
Oh, Fallen's a great.
That I actually bought Fallen.
Yeah, that's a great CD.
I thought to me, Fallen was, man, I love Fallen. I love that. I love that one. Now, going back to talk about you guys are heading out on the road soon, right?
Yeah, we're getting ready to play in Rosedale, Indiana, May 15th.
18th, I think, isn't it? Is it the 15th?
15th,
you might be right.
16th.
I don't have my calendar in front of me.
May 15th, Juggerland. Okay. Juggerland Christian Rock Festival in Rosedale, Indiana. Not too far from Terre Haute, Indiana. So it's a 2-day festival. It's happening out there. There's going to be quite a lot of great bands out there. True Revival, Dojo Saints, Dusty Bones, Chip Seal, Samson's Riddle, Endavai, who we've done a show with Endavai. They're part of the Resurrection Records roster. Were they there in Kentucky too? I think Endavai was.
Yeah.
Were they? That was I against no one, wasn't it?
Oh, I got you. No, you're right. They weren't down there. You're correct.
I against no one. Yeah, they're going to be there Sunday actually. So yeah, be a good
we've
time.
Got someone's working on some things for us in August, and then September.
And in September we got Worshipalooza. That's in Bellefontaine, Ohio. That's like a 3-day weekend happening September 4th through the 7th. So it's a biker event. So,
oh wow! I got to meet Lynn Casier at a biker event.
Met who?
Lynn Casier. Resurrection Band.
Okay.
Yeah, Sarah. I think it was in 2000.
October 10th. October 10th, we're going to be playing in Willard, Wisconsin at another bike weekend up there.
Wow.
And then we also have a promoter that's working on getting us something in November here in Ohio.
You guys going to be doing any more Immortal Fest?
No, not this year.
Nope, but if they invite us back, we'll go.
Yeah. But yeah, not this year. We didn't get invited back. So was surprised that we got invited back last year. We got to play 2 years in a row there, which was really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, cool venue too. People should go out there and check that out. It's a really cool venue. They deserve to have a better draw, I think. For what he's doing there. I would love to see him, bring in a couple thousand people.
Yeah.
Fill that place up, no matter who's playing.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I heard, that it wasn't very. I thought with all the bands that's going to be playing that it was going to be, but then I heard that it didn't draw as much as they was hoping. But that's just what I heard.
Yep.
Well, I would say
They also introduced some virtual options this year as well.
Live streaming.
Yeah, so folks that might have made a weekend road trip of it, might have made sense for them to stay put. But
and stream it.
still a good crowd, and I mean honestly, the staff and the crew there are outstanding.
Yeah, top notch. Good people.
I think they'll do better this year because they're just doing the one weekend. I think that it got too expensive for people to go, and they were starting to choose, well, which weekend do we want to go to? And a lot of people we knew were gone on vacation when we were there, and so them having one weekend, I think, will benefit them.
and people saw that when we were playing whatever weekend it was like, oh, we don't want to go that weekend, so we're no. Okay.
We were the draws.
What was the guy playing it? We ain't going to that one. They're the chopped steak of Christian metal. Pass.
See what we did. We broke it.
That's good stuff.
Sorry.
You broke the fist.
No, but the first year they had Immortal Fest out there. It was really good the first year because the first Immortal Fest, I believe, resurrected a lot of those bands from the 80s, brought them back.
Yes,
Aaron Cross and White Cross and,
Striking.
Huh?
I said striking. I had to throw striking in there. They were one of my favorites back in the day.
So yeah, I mean it's brought a lot of the bands back. I mean, and now they're all producing, recording new albums and stuff. It's been really good since it's happened.
I didn't have a chance to watch it yet, but I seen you guys posted a concert you just did not a couple of weeks ago. Was it for Resurrection Breakfast or Kentucky?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Frankfort, Kentucky.
What was that?
It was a little place called Memories Event Center. It was Resurrection Fest, Kentucky. So Resurrection Records is putting these on, and it was a neat little venue. It was looked like a wedding reception that someone kind of broke, maybe, but it was a cool venue, and we played with some great people and met some great people while we were there. I mean, that's one of the things I think I always take away from many of these shows is it's like we always run into or meet somebody new that that tends to stick with me in my mind, I guess, in that sense that those are the kind of you soon forget I guess the stage time and what necessarily happened on stage, and you more remember the experiences that you end up sharing with people that you're there, whether it be guys or gals from other acts that are playing, or sometimes just random people that you meet in line buying a hamburger, So it's always interesting, and it's that was a cool time. It was a good show. I think it was a little bit different, I think, for us in a sense that the way we went into that, we just kind of just set up on the stage and played. We didn't really mic anything other than vocals. We just kind of said, all right, here's what we got. And they were struggling, I think, with the sound anyways, just because they had a new system in. The guy was still learning some of the aspects of the system. And I felt like in a way we kind of just made it easy on him and said, hey, we'll just handle it from here, make sure people can hear the vocals and, the lyrics. And other than that, we got this. And it went off pretty good. It was a fun show. Enjoyed it, and actually watching it back, you get to. It's cool to have the video so you can kind of go back and watch and sort of critique yourself. But at the same time, I'm always interested in hearing, what does it sound like from the crowd. I know what it sounds like on a stage. It's not always great on stage, but you're hoping at least that the folks in the crowd are getting a good sound mix and enjoying it. So it seemed like it was a good one.
I know for myself, sometimes you don't get the full impact if you're not there live.
Mhm.
It's,
Sure.
I didn't know. Do you know who brought back the bands as far as starting Immortal Fest? Have you heard who it was? So Dorn Ruppert with Darth Plummer Artist Management, he had Image Records back in the day, and he was the one that helped Steve Barhorst
Yeah.
bring Immortal Fest
Yeah.
the first year.
Yep.
And so if it wasn't for him working with Steve, none of this would be happening.
Yeah, indeed.
Wow.
I just wanted to give a shout out to him because
Hey, Dorn.
if it wasn't for him, a lot of things in the last couple of years wouldn't have happened for a lot of bands.
That's true.
Right. Yeah, because that I was in a band once before, and there's a lot of struggle.
Yeah.
You get a lot of promises and a lot of slap of their hand saying, "Get that hand away from me," But I know exactly. We show up at places but we still play as if there's only 5 people. We just play like if there's 50 or 100 people.
Yep.
Still do it.
Yep. You get up there and
We
put your best foot forward. And sometimes there's those little rinky-dink shows in the back corner, hole in the wall venues. That's the ones where people need to hear what you got to say.
Yeah.
Like I said, even if you don't know who they are and you don't know they're hearing it, a lot of times that's where you're reaching people. So you go in there with a poor attitude and play a poor show. That's not a good look for the gospel.
When we do our outdoor services, well, like a church at a park or a place like that, sometimes it varies with how many people's there. And I remember there for a little bit of a stretch there a few years ago, maybe a handful of people was showing up, and we started getting a lot of people's like, well, why are you even doing that for us? To me, they're like, to us, it's not even worth, because it was just me and my wife. We'd load the car up with our sound equipment, go and load it. Granted, sometimes when people was available to help us, they would, but we'd set everything up, and they're like, they don't understand why you guys are doing it. We're like, well, it's just for that one.
Yep.
Right.
And most of the time, it was that one.
Yep.
And we've been gracious enough to do it in areas where somebody be walking by and hear the gospel or hear a song there, and they're like, it's like I think it was last week, one of the young men that me and my wife both knew and went to school with him, he passed away, but he got real bad on meth, and that he got real bad on it. And whenever we do the church in the parks in the area where he lived at, he would always walk by, and I'd be like, "You can stay, man." He'd be like, "No, it's okay." Well, he'd walk by, and then 20 minutes later, he'd walk by again. And then, like, a little while later, he'd walk by again.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, well, I looked at him one time. I was like, every time you walk by, you might as well just stay. He goes, no, it's all right, man.
He's just trying to hear things from different angles in the crowd.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like I was telling him the other night, a couple of days after we found out he passed away. It's like he started helping out at a local drug outreach place in the town that he lives in. and somebody made mention like, "Did you guys used to preach in the park near where he lived at?" And I was like, "Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, we did." I was like, "Who's to say that the Lord didn't plant a seed in that?"
Right.
And all them, and 2 or 3 years later, he got right with the Lord, and he started helping out this little place before he passed
Yeah.
away. So you never know
Right.
who you're going to reach, the number of people you're going to reach. It can just be that one
Yep.
person.
It's enough.
I think if you're playing
To me,
for 5 people or 50,000 people, those people are still giving up the time to come and see you, and they deserve the best you got on that night.
Right.
Dude. Even if you're playing in front of 1,000 cicadas in 108-degree weather, you give it all you got.
No, they deserve an No, they deserve an exterminator, Steve.
Yeah, we had a show like that a few years back, and hardly anybody showed up at this Indiana or Indian bike shop in Kentucky, and hardly anybody showed up. But as soon as we started playing, the cicadas showed up that day.
We have our number one biggest fan out of that show, and he is now our Sergeant Thrash. But he came from that show.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he started following us ever since then.
Yeah, pretty cool.
You never know.
Nope.
You never know what the impact's going to be.
You never know.
Do you guys find that? Well, let me ask you this: is what you're doing for the Lord? Do you see that it's actually impacting people
Oh,
and helping them?
absolutely, it has.
Yeah.
We played in Philadelphia at this little bar there, and there was a gentleman that was talking to us outside. He hadn't been in church for years, and he was going to go back from that night. And in Tennessee, when we played down there were actually people getting baptized while they were on stage. They were getting prayed for while they were on stage.
Oh wow!
And I see a lot of things that they don't get to because they're on stage. You know, people talking, and in Kentucky 3 weeks ago, there was some people there didn't like metal at all, and now they're following us. So you do see a lot of, and it's usually behind the scenes. It's not like right in front of the stage. We've seen some really crazy things too, where people have left because they were affected by the music and they didn't like it. They were affected in a good way, but they didn't like it and they left.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We about 6 years ago, we played in this festival in Lima, Jamming for Jesus. I think it was the first year for it. And we have a song called Ghost. And
Yeah.
Ghost. And
Yeah.
when we would play that song, I would give a little bit of my testimony about the song, where I came from, and how the song happened, and everything else. So after we got done playing our set, there was this lady that was sitting there under our tent, and she came up to me, and she felt, I guess, convicted about, and she heard my testimony about the song Ghost, and started telling me how she was affected by evil spirits and things living in her home and everything. And there was a city fair going on, like down the road from the festival, I guess. And she had just purchased like a little novelty Ouija board. It was like made out of pewter or plastic or something like that. And she got it at, well, she said that while we were playing the song, she had it in her purse or her bag or something. And she said she could feel her purse getting hot. And this is what she said. So I don't know, but we talked to her and prayed over her, and she handed over that Ouija board since she didn't want it. She wanted to make a change in her life. And we took the Ouija board from her, and on our way home that night, we're like, "What are we going to do with this board? You know, I don't want it, you know." So Rochelle checks it out on I-75 in front of the semi. I'm like, "Oh my gosh!"
I didn't want to throw the trash. I didn't want somebody finding the trash. So.
I don't think I would admit to that on air. Letter bug.
At least you didn't go, "Oh, Ouija board, what should we do with you?"
Exactly.
Gosh.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
She actually ended up going to church there, I know, for a couple months.
Yeah.
I don't know if she still is, but we had talked to the assistant pastor afterwards, and he said that she had wanted to join the choir and stuff. So
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, she was just walking by that day. It was a hot day. We had water. She stopped under a shade tree on the outside of the sidewalk from where we were at. And actually, Ed, our bass player, took her some water and asked her to come over and sit down in the shade with us. And she ended up staying for the whole thing, pretty much the whole festival. So it was pretty cool.
Well, that's awesome right there. And right when you talked, just when you said that, talking about the water, and she came and sat down with you guys, the woman at the water.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yes. Yeah. I had never thought of it. That's awesome.
So, Steve, you mentioned the song "Ghost," and I was going to actually ask you about that. That's one of the things I was going to ask you earlier. What was that you said you had a testimony to go along with that song? Do you care to share it?
Sure. Well, yeah, I was raised in church, and then when I turned 18, I stopped going to church. So, and marriage life along the way, and living kind of chaotic, but never losing my faith in God. I just stopped going to church completely. But I got involved with witchcraft, playing around witchcraft, Ouija boards, listening to the wrong type of music too, along with that. But the main thing that became my big interest was the ghost hunting. I got so intrigued with that, and I got so involved that I could tell you stories all day long, the things I've experienced with ghost hunting. Going through all that, I never had a desire to worship the devil. That was not my intent. I just wanted to know, I was aware of what God could do, his capabilities. I wanted to know what was on the other side, and how easily it is to get sucked into that, and I did. But like I said, never had an intention of worshiping the devil. But 3 marriages later, through all that, my third wife, she got me back in the church. we started going to church and everything else, and I had an eye opener about the whole ghost hunting thing because I used to believe at one time, the ghost was actually people's long lost loved ones that were still lingering on earth and everything else. I used to believe that, and I don't so much anymore. Like I say, God opened my eyes to a lot of things, and I realized with the song talks about my experience with the ghost hunting, but in the last verse, it's the one ghost I should have been looking for was the Holy Spirit, so the Holy Ghost,
Right.
and I never been on drugs. I never been an alcoholic. I would say that was my biggest addiction, and coming out of that, I had withdrawals like you wouldn't believe. I mean, I had nightmares, demons. I had dreams of demons coming after me and ghosts attacking me, and it was I'd wake up in the middle of the night screaming, and things. When before I was so just I was so immune to it that it didn't phase me. I wasn't afraid. I was. But when I came out of it, it was like the whole perspective changed. That I like it was trying to bring me back to it. And I'll have to admit sometimes I have to be a little careful if I get to watching things like on internets and whatever, some of the ghost stuff that you see. I don't know what, half of it, I don't know what to believe anymore, and especially with today's AI and all that stuff. But when you lived it and you experienced it and you know what's out there, it's real. And the realization of it all is it's nothing but evilness. I mean, the devil knows your heart and desire just as much as God does. But I really truly believe the devil's willing to give it to you quicker. And it seemed like that's what happened with me, when God, it's his timing, and huh. Oh yeah, but anyway, yeah, she always wants me to bring. I always use what was called the tea bag theory. I always believed that where I'd not lost my faith in God going through all this, I felt like He had a hold of me like a tea bag. He's like, I'm gonna give you a little bit of this, you know. Here's a little bit of this experience I want you to have, and this is just my assumption of everything, but not losing my faith in God, I really felt like he was there, even though I wasn't living right for God. But I felt like, what if this was just Him giving me this and say, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to feel. This is what's, and now I'm using it today, So
Right. I can agree with that. I totally get where you're coming from with that.
Yep.
I believe that I never had intention of getting into drugs or none of that. But moving, being from small town in Southwest Virginia, moving to California, wanting to fit in, you know, everybody was like, "Here, you want?" It started, started out instantly just marijuana. I was like, "Hey, you smoke? Why, yes." And it just turned into dropping acid, doing lines of crank, staying up 4 or 5 days, and going to where you was talking about. I do when I was down in California. I knew some guys that was into Satanism. They were the devil. They would go and sacrifice the animals or whatever. They'd always invite me to it, and I'd be like, no, I know there's a God and I know there's a devil. I know that God's good and the devil's bad. But in the back of my mind, I'll be like, I wonder what this is really about. So I started studying books on the occult, all this, and I believe there at one time that opened up a door that I didn't
oh yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you know. And I remember I was reading a book that it actually had spells in it, and in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if I'm not actually saying it, it's not going to affect. It's not going to have an effect on me. But there's some weird things that started happening after that. The trailer I was living in, all kinds of area. I'd wake up at night and there's a curtain in the hallway, and I'd feel a cool chill, and I would look down the hallway, and the curtain would raise up and come back down like somebody was looking out of it. I was like, oh gosh. So I was like, I need to do something here. And the only thing I knew what to do, I was like, you know what? I need to pray. I need to pray. And so me and some friends of mine, they was Christians, and they came over and they was praying and everything. And we had hung up a cross in one of the rooms there in the trailer. And I went in there the next morning, and it was down on the floor. I was like, we got to pray again. You know, so they came back over and went through the whole house, anointed it, and prayed over it. You know, and I learned a valuable lesson. And I tell everybody, I was like, be careful what you read, just because you may not be saying it out loud. You may not be intending for it to come forth or whatever. It gets in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I get exactly where you're coming from. Because I totally believe that sometimes we can allow things into our mind.
Oh, I definitely welcomed it in with open arms when I got involved. Yeah, I was all arms wide open for it. I mean,
It's definitely and well, I don't know about, well, I do remember, what was it? I think it was 94 or 95. And it was getting close to Halloween. And the police, the sheriff's department there in Defiance, Ohio, put out a warning saying that they caught wind that the Satanists up in the area was looking for young, blonde hair, blue eyed boys. And I was like, wow. You know, and it just so happened that me and a friend of mine that actually still lives up there, I was going car shopping, and I went behind a car lot there, and there's just a bunch of used cars that people had traded in or whatever, and carved into the hood of one of them was a pentagram that said, "At the new moon, the hunt will begin." I looked at my buddy. I was like, "See, man." He wasn't a Christian. I was like, "See, what's it going to take
Right.
for you to for your eyes to be open that this stuff is real? That there is a devil. There's definitely devil Satanists / devil worshippers / witches out there, warlocks, you know, and they actually are coming for, well, like, for better term, your soul.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh.
because like I tell everybody out there, there's a war raging for your soul.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks about it in the Bible. It talks about, you know, we should not be messing around with the fortune tellers and witchcraft, and
Yes.
I mean, and if you think about it, I mean, a lot of people don't believe in demon possession, and I know there's been a few controversy over this, but it does talk about when it says, and Satan entered Judas twice in the Bible. When it says enter Judas, to me that sounds like demon possession.
That's
I
right.
mean, but I've had a few people argue with me about it a few times that oh no, that's not what that means, but it is what that means. It says right there, and Satan entered Judas.
Well, I mean, Jesus spent a lot of his time casting out demons. I mean,
Exactly,
So,
yeah.
I mean, demon possession's a real thing.
Yeah.
It made me think of the old law in the Old Testament. You know, where they were basically told not to mess with mediums, not to mess with anybody that was dabbling in spiritism or whatever you want to call it. I mean, even Saul, when he went to the witch of Endor, because essentially God's spirit left Saul, and Samuel had already died, and he didn't have anybody else to talk to. So he made an attempt at least. Now, I don't know how God made that work, but I believe that it happened, and essentially, Samuel come and told him, "Yeah, this ain't good."
Right.
That's exactly right.
And I mean, they obviously were aware of what ghosts were, even. I mean, because for them to mistakenly accuse Jesus of being a ghost walking on water.
Yeah.
I mean, so even back I mean, it's always been here, it's,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, Steve, I agree with you on that demon possession thing. A lot of people don't. You start talking about it, and they're like, "Oh, that can't be." And I was like, "Well, no, not
It
necessarily."
makes people uncomfortable.
Yeah.
A lot of,
Well, I
some
know.
people that don't want to admit that kind of thing can happen because whether they admit that they're scared or not, they're a little scared about where they stand. And a lot of time that's conviction.
Yeah.
That's the Lord dealing with them, saying, you might want to consider where you're at. And I don't mean where you're standing physically either. I mean where you're at spiritually. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. I've encountered it a couple of times. Well, more than a couple, but we've been fortunate enough to get rid of it.
Like I said, I could tell you a bunch of stories. Sometimes I wish I documented a lot of those that's
Yeah.
happened, but I didn't. But it was quite a trip, I tell you.
Yeah. It's like people ask me. Well, we had somebody ask us, me and the wife, one time. Said, um, "Well, how do you do it?" I was like, "Well, I just go by what the Lord leads me to do, And the first thing is when Jesus even told them when disciples came and said we tried to cast this out and we couldn't do it, and Jesus even told them this only comes by prayer and fasting. And I totally believe that before you go and even attempt,
gotta prepare.
my point of view is you gotta be prayed
Yeah.
up
Mm-hmm.
and be on point. And a good example of it is the seven sons of Sceva in Acts when they went to go cast the demon out, and they was like, Jesus, we know, Paul, we know, but who are
Right.
you? So my whole question is does Jesus know? Are you born? Are you fully blood bought, born again, prayed up, and if you go to do it, do they know who you are?
Right.
Do they know that you're blood bought?
Yeah, if you're not encountering any resistance, then maybe you need to re-examine what you're doing and how you're going about it.
Right.
Because if you're working, if you're doing the Lord's work and working for the gospel, I think you are destined to meet resistance, and that's to put it mildly. So it can be a lot worse than that. I've seen a lot of people that they want to dismiss all of that kind of thing outright. They don't believe in spirits. They don't believe in the spiritual world. They think that there's just this world. It's physical. There's no God. There's no
There's no devil.
Ignorance is no excuse. You know what I mean? So, you do have to be careful what you dabble in, and I get that. There's a conscious effort, I guess. I used to enjoy horror movies. I don't enjoy them anymore. And I've had people that have recommended this movie or that movie and say, "Oh, it's a really good movie. You got to see it." I just don't really have any desire to put that kind of stuff in my mind.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and my wife is real good about that. She will leave the room. Sometimes even without a show being on, it's just a commercial, and she will walk away just saying, "I don't need to subject myself to that. I don't want to be around that. I don't want that imagery in my mind." And I'm like, "You're smarter than I am for walking out of the room because I'm just going to sit through it till it's over." So, but yeah, I don't make used to, but don't make any effort to really watch stuff like that anymore. I find the subject fascinating. I mean, listening to Steve
Yes.
talk about some of his experiences and just some things that I've experienced or stories that I've heard over the years. There's no doubt in my mind that it's real. And that it does have the ability to reach out for you and whether or not you give in to that, that's kind of the deciding factor right there.
Well, do you guys think that because of all the, I really hate sometimes using this example, but we are the metal music scene full of satanic imagery, occult imagery. Do you think that sometimes the church or some people within the church, that's that's all they've seen, therefore they think all Christian rock or Christian metal, that's, it's automatically the devil?
Yeah. Yeah, I think some people judge it right on sight without even hearing what it is or asking what it is. I think some of that imagery is used for, I don't know, it's kind of like bait. It lures a certain crowd in, maybe, that might need to hear that message. So I'm not necessarily opposed, to some of that usage. But there's also been some stuff that I've seen that are, Christian album covers are supposed to be imagery from Christian bands that, it just kind of makes me scratch my head and say, why? Why do you want to associate yourself with that? Why do you want to be associated with that type of imagery? I can't knock it. I'm a huge fan of skulls. I love skulls. I like images of skulls. My dad used to ask me, why do you like skulls so much? And I said, it's one thing we all have in common. Everybody's got a skull. When you pull everything else back down to the bones, everybody's got a skull. So that's just the way I've always looked at it.
Some people just have less inside.
Yeah, some people have more space. So that's where I keep my extra furniture.
No, but my wife asked me out. Even to this day, we've been together. Oh gosh, she'll kill me if I don't remember this.
She will.
26, 27 years, I think, altogether.
Edit this. Edit.
Even to this day, she said, what is your fascination with skulls? And I'm just like, ever since I was a kid, I've been fascinated. Anything to do with skulls, I'm there, man. I'm just fascinated with them. And back about 6-7 years ago, maybe, a guy by the name of Cody Bay, he was a former Marine. He made a ministry called SoCon, and it's mainly reaching men that was addicted to pornography, because that's what he's addicted to. And his logo was a skull with a dagger with a fork going through it, and then a snake representing the snake being sin, death, the fork representing eating the word of God. And it was awesome. Well, actually, I'm wearing it right now. But and she was like, "There you go again with the skulls," And like you, Leon, I'm fascinated with skulls, and nothing evil about it. It's just a fascination.
Yeah, I agree. That's why I said it doesn't. To me, it doesn't represent evil. It represents humanity.
Now I know there's been a few times that I know I've gotten flack for some of the album covers, Weapons of God album covers, like ever since day one, the first album cover, you have the soldier holding two guns, and and then the second album you have soldiers fighting demons, and now you have the third one with the demon reflected in a god. But I always get, well, how does guns represent God? How does this all represent God? And I try to tell them it's a modern day warfare.
Right.
Instead of going back to the shields and swords and armor and everything, it's a modern time. Yeah. Today's modern warfare we're fighting in, and like with the war within us. within us. You know, those soldiers that are fighting demons. Each one of those demons is representing someone's addiction. You know, it could be anything. It's addiction of pornography and alcohol, drugs. I mean, like even ghost hunting or whatever, witchcraft, or you know, just you know, it could be anything. It could be what somebody's going through, and the soldiers is fighting off that war we've battled within ourselves.
Right. And ain't that
And you know, you know, it's like
That's the name of the
tell me
record,
about
The
the
War
Demon
Within
Hunter.
Us.
yeah.
And it's like go back and look at all the Demon Hunter album covers. Every Demon Hunter album cover has a demon skull with a bullet hole in the center. So where'd that bullet hole where'd that come from? You know, so what's any different than us having guns and whatever, you know? It's a
Yeah, I think
modern day warfare.
Yeah, I think that sums it up really. The imagery, and you know, it says we're in a spiritual warfare, and it's just basically taking that idea and, like Steve said, applying more of a modern bent to it, I guess to say, from the imagery standpoint, because you can be sure that the devil's using that modern technology against people. So, you know, it kind of represents the same sort of aspect, that it's a serious situation.
Right.
You know,
I think we lost Steve.
hey, we did.
Well,
Laptop battery died.
good at it.
Bad.
Well, talk about album covers. Mortification.
Oh yeah.
Steve Rowe was infamous for his album covers.
Yeah.
I can just about guarantee that he got a lot of flack for his album covers. Hey,
And
you're
not only did he get a lot of flack, but I bet you they reached a lot of people with those album covers too.
I guess so.
They grabbed some
Yeah.
attention and had some people say, "Wait a minute, what are these guys all about?" You know. And then
I
if you look,
I remember, I think it was Scrolls of the Megaloth.
Yep.
Was the first album that I saw of theirs. I was like, and the thing that drew me to it was the album cover. I was like, what is this all about? And one
Right.
thing that I can say about Steve is that I don't know about a lot of the albums, but I know on that one, and I think it was, I'm at a loss of his discography now, but I know for that one, there's two others that I had of theirs that on the inside, on the inner sleeve, he'd give the explanation, what the cover
explanation
was
for the
about.
album cover.
Yeah, thank you.
Right.
What
Yeah.
the cover was about. And I thought,
Right.
well, at least he, sad that he had to do that, but I'm glad that he did it too. Same thing with that, because somebody could have picked it up and not even lost person or somebody just checking it out, saying, "What is this cover mean?" And all of a sudden they read what the cover's about. It's like, wow, it just opens up a whole new perspective.
Right. Yep. Yeah, or a conversation, or you know, something else that gives somebody the opportunity, to witness. And I get that. I think, that has to be used with a little bit of caution in a sense, because you're still supposed to still be out there representing God, and so you don't want to take that too far, I don't think. But at the same time, I do a little artwork myself. I'm a big fan of artwork. I think that the imagery can be used to complement what's there, and it can also be used as a marketing tool. So
Well, so where Steve touched on his testimony a little bit, Leon or Jason, you guys want to give a little bit of your testimonies? Is this something that the Lord brought you from?
well, I mean, I was fortunate, I think, and I realized that the older again, I think I was very fortunate to be brought up pretty much in a Christian home. My parents got saved when I was probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. So I was always in and around church, and I believe and still come back to the scripture that says, if you raise a child up in the ways that are right, when they're old, they'll not turn from it. And I think that that in of itself has been sort of something that's stuck with me. But sort of similar to what Steve said, I don't think I ever stopped believing in God. I just kind of stopped participating and spent time participating in the world. Like I said, there was always an element. Like the guys I was in bands with and played music with, they all knew that I was a fan of Christian metal. That they would say, "Oh, you got to get Leon to let you hear this band," or get Leon to let you hear this band. Like they weren't capable of going and listening to it on their own, but they knew that if there was something interesting, like Believer, for example, I had people, friends that would come up and say, "Hey, do you have that, that Believer album, Sandy Obscure, I think was that one," and when we put that into the rotation, and I would share that music just like they were, sharing along with, whatever Slayer or Exodus or DRI or whatever back in the day, and that would wind up in the mix. And then was in a band called One Word, where basically me and the singer for that band, the primary singer, because I did do some vocals in that band as well. We considered ourselves Christians, and again, we weren't exactly by the book Christians, so to speak, but we had that background and that belief, and we used to attend what they called, what was the name of the church? I can't remember home church. So there was this guy and his wife, and they basically had this organization called Home Church that they called Home Church. And basically what they did was, of people that they knew, they took church to those people's homes. So we would go to different people's houses and then sit around, in their living room or their family room or whatever, and he would give a sermon or whatever. We'd do Bible study, those kinds of things. And then, we go back out into the world doing our thing. But we made it a point to spend time, with things like that. And, even lyrically, some of the things that he wrote, some of the things I wrote, where we would kind of slip that Christian worldview idea into those songs. Because we did hold on to that, even though we weren't, directly involved with it, I think at the time, and probably far from it at sometimes. I think it definitely stuck with me, and I am forever grateful, to my parents for that upbringing. It's for whatever reason, it hit home with me, and I've just seen way too many blessings from God to think that things just happen for no reason at all. It's beyond my comprehension for somebody to, think that we're all here because of some big giant chemical accident of some sort. It just takes a lot of faith to believe that kind of thing. More faith than I've got, I think. So it's not, I wouldn't exactly call that a testimony, so to speak, but there's stories and experiences that I've had along the way that I could share that, to me are without a doubt God's hand on my life, because of the prayer of my parents, because of the prayer of the church that I was raised in and the people that knew me, that has probably saved my life physically on more than one occasion. So, and I'm very thankful for it. So,
I'm thankful for my great grandmother. I tell everybody when I was a kid, you go up to her, she reminds you of Granny out in the Beverly Hillbillies,
mhm.
and you go up to her house and you walk in, and first thing she'd pray over you, feed you, give you a little bit of a Bible verse or study, and then if you go out and play, you come back in and she pray over you before you leave. And I tell people all the time, I was like, you know what? I truly believe because my great grandmother, as great as she was, is the reason why, you know, I was able to get where I'm at today.
Yeah.
I truly believe that, throughout my whole life that people have been praying for me, even my friend's mom, all the way back out in California. I believe it, because of her prayers. The hand of God was on my life.
Yep.
I can think back at times where there's times that I think in my mind I should have died. And I truly believe the word of God for God. It is for all those people prayed, and the hand of God was on that action was on my life.
Yep.
For the reason why I'm where I'm at right now. You know.
Yeah.
You got anything, Jason?
No, I like Leon. I don't have a dramatic testimony, because I grew up in a Christian household as well. I would say that I definitely went through a rebellious phase. Um, so it's those times where I'm so grateful that, you know, God still exercised grace and mercy, that I'm still here today, because there were some really stupid things that I've done over the years. Um, but yeah, I think, my main focus has been on my kids, and making sure that they don't repeat some of the same mistakes that I did, and stepped on the same landmines. So
It's tough, ain't it?
it is.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, you want so much more for them than what you had, and um, you just pray that you're able to be that, that solid spiritual person and example that, models that kind of behavior that really just directs them and other people to Jesus.
Yep. So my kids may not believe the same things I believe, but there is no doubt that they know what their dad believes.
Right.
So it's not because they haven't been taught.
What about you, Michelle? You got anything?
Me?
Yeah. You got a testimony or something you like to share?
I was raised by a German Lutheran grandmother, and she was involved in church all her life, all my life, children's choir, everything. And I quit going to church when I was 18. And the first time I went into a Pentecostal church, I was scared to death. Ran out. I mean, it's like everything on me just went straight up, and I ran out. But in order to get married, I had to say the sinner's prayer. That the pastor made me do it. And at the time, I did it because I wanted to get married. And it wasn't until years later, when I'm with Mike now, and we went to, a friend of mine invited me to a church in Lebanon, Ohio, and we went. And I think that's where it stuck, because in order to have communion that day, he had everybody in the church say the sinner's prayer, which I'd never seen. And I actually cried and felt something.
Right.
So that's pretty much when it stuck. And from that point on, it's just been things that I've seen, bad and good, and things that we're experiencing as a band, good, that's happened recently. And it's just, it's amazing. And the places that we've got to go. And if you would have told me, I'm in business, so that's why he asked me to do what I'm doing. But if you would have told me when I was younger that I'd be doing this, I was not a metal person. I was the 70s and big band, and my grandfather was a barber shopper. My grandma was a sweet Adeline. So I've always been around music, but this has been really fun for me to be able to be involved and help write some songs lyrically that I've done with them. And it's to people see people have evil spirits in them, and to be able to pray over them like we did. And that was the next band member. And just to see people's lives and to see people be baptized when you're playing a song. they're just up there on stage singing. And the funny thing was that was Ghost too. It's like when they sing Ghost is when a lot of things happen. And to see that people get so caught up in the song and to feel something that over the years has helped me grasp metal and helped me be able to talk to churches and people. It's like, okay, it is real. And having been raised a German Lutheran and to go to who I am now over the years, it's been a big change. But I'm able to, like, we have women, we played in Covington, Kentucky? I think it's Covington.
Oh, Erlanger.
Erlanger. And this woman came up to him and we ended up talking to her. And so I'm able to, from a female standpoint, talk to women in a way they can't. So I've been able to do that too. And I wouldn't have done that if it hadn't been for God doing what he's done through the years.
Yeah, that was a kind of I guess not scary situation, but we played at this place in Erlanger called Peacock's Erlanger. It was a bar, a venue. And after we got done playing, we always end our set list with the Weapons of God song. And this girl came up to me, and I mean, I walked by her. She was sitting at the bar with her husband, her boyfriend at the time. And she came up to me and started talking to me. I'm thinking, oh no, this is not going to go well. I'm thinking, my first thought is, oh no, because her boyfriend was watching from the bar and everything else. And she came out and she's like, I got it. And I was like, excuse me? She's like, your last song, I know what that was about. She knew what Weapons of God was about. It was, dark.
That's where we stand to live eternity in the promised land. Fighting the good fight for whatever the cause, for the blood of Christ is sacrifice on the cross. Praise, praise the righteousness is in his praise.
about it, the armor of God.
Right.
And she started to proceed to talk about how she was raised in church and everything else. And I don't think she was having a good time. Something was going on that night. It wasn't too good. When Rochelle was gone, I'm getting kind of a little nervous because I don't want no trouble, because he was watching the whole time, her talking to me. And she finally, I think you stepped outside, and I was like, Rochelle, hey, come here for a minute. Take care of this. And then next thing you know, she's talking to her, and we brought her outside, and we all gathered around, and we prayed over her and everything. So it's all about that one.
Yeah, that was an interesting story. If I remember correctly, she said that she had been trying to give up drinking and was trying to stay away from bars. And she
That's right.
felt like
Yeah.
as she was driving by that night, she told, at least she said, she was like, she was drawn to go in, and she
That's
felt
right.
really, really bad about it because she was trying to stay away from it, but she felt this urge that she came in, and she ended up coming in, and then ended up hearing us play, and she did get it. She caught the lyrics. I had a couple of people come up to me that night too and said, more or less, that it takes a lot of guts to come into a place like this and sing songs like that. And my only response to that is thank you. I appreciate that you recognize it. He's like, oh yeah, I recognize what you're singing about. I recognize what you're doing, and more power to you, kind of thing. So yeah, those experiences are. There's a bunch of them, I think, over the years. You kind of, I think, reflect on them more, when it's current, when it's a little more current. But as we start sitting here talking, like to yourself or talking to people in general, when you're out and about playing shows, and you start to, some of those memories come back, and you realize that hey, God's been working His thing all along, even. And probably even things like I said, that the things that we don't see, the things that we're not directly involved in, those may be some of the neediest situations out there. And just because somebody doesn't come and tell you how they feel, or somebody doesn't come and tell you what they're struggling with, don't mean the struggle isn't real, and it doesn't mean that the help is not timely, let's say, in some situations. So very thankful to be able to be a part of that.
Back in 2000 and beginning of 2016, I was working in Cincinnati at a construction company, and this older gentleman came in, didn't know me from anybody, and the band hadn't totally formed publicly, and he prophesied over the band. And I told him and a couple other band members that we had at the time. And then later on in 2018, we were at a church, and I felt like going up for prayer. He went up with me, and the gentleman that prayed over us prayed over the band that wasn't public yet. 2019 is when the first CD came out, and we became public. And the following year, we were back at that church playing, and I went up to him. I said, do you remember that day? And he did. I said, this is the band you prayed over. So every time when we got discouraged or band members changed or whatever happened, in my mind, I kept going back to that, because for two total strangers to do that, it was like, okay, we can't give up on this. And here we are.
Amen. Well, I know that me and the wife, as far as the ministry goes, as far as just regular day life, it's been rough. And her health, she almost died a year ago. She's still having effects from that. She's facing another surgery towards the end of April, and having to deal with all that. And then just I'll say this: I did not realize how cutthroat ministry could be until you actually get into ministry. I'll say that, and you know, we got to the point where it's almost like it's, you know, we wouldn't really want to give up, but just sort of like, you know what, let's just back off, you know, just let's just back off and just see how it goes. And for a year and a half, we slowed down as far as ministry wise. We slowed down a whole lot, and I was about and just and a few months ago, I guess it's probably I would say around November, around that time, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to shut everything down and just become full time to a church somewhere, you know, just shut down, stand my ground, and all that. And then I heard a song. That song was a song by you guys, "Death of Me."
Nice.
And it's talking about the chains falling off, and when I heard that line, I was like, you know what? We've had all these weights put on us by other people, and I think in a roundabout way, that's what was weighing us down. It's just all the rules and regulations, and maybe some of them may have meant well, but where they's planting all this stuff, all these chains on us, and all these limitations on us, to where, you know what, it got to where I felt like I couldn't move. I felt like where I couldn't be free into being what God wanted us to be, and I was just like, you know what, I don't want to fight it no more. I just tired. I'm just about at it. But then I heard your all song, and I was like, huh. And I thought to myself, like, you know what? I don't think I'm ready to give up just yet. I think, you know what? No, this is not going to be the death of me. This is not going to be the death of the ministry. This is not going to be the death of her. The health thing she's going through ain't going to be the death of her. She's going to rise up out of this. The Lord's going to watch over her and take care of her.
Amen, brother. Claim that.
And He's going to have His hand upon her ministry. He's going to have His hand upon her spiritual ministry life, but our physical ministry life as well. He's going to bring everything into place at a set time when it needs to be there.
Crushing me to the ground as a strong
weeks ago. A friend of ours, she lives in North Carolina. She came up. Her dad's church. So we was there, and in the service, she came up to me. She said, "You know, the Lord." She goes, "The Lord's wanted me to tell you something throughout the whole service. I've been sort of afraid to. Uh, I want to tell you something that the Lord told me to tell you." I was like, "Okay." She goes, "It's just one word." I was like, "Okay." She said, "Now." And she goes, "The Lord said you know what that means." And I was like, "Huh." Yes, I know exactly what that means. And some other people was sitting there like, "Well, what does that mean?" It means I need to quit sitting on my butt, get up and start doing what it is that the Lord has called me to do. The ideas that He's gave me, there's a lot of stuff that I put down 2 years ago. I believe it's maybe closer to 2.5 years ago now. There's this being one of them. I've been, I'm just going to do it, and I just put it down to the side. And I found it funny that you guys were the first ones to reach out, and I was like, well, isn't that ironic that, you know,
Nope, that's how God works.
like, I was like,
It's not irony.
Yeah, I was going to ask you how you heard about us. What made you reach out? So I'm
yeah,
guessing that's how that all
well,
started right there. Huh?
I had heard of you guys, but I never really, I think it was the first album, and then I think I heard Ghost and a few songs here and there from Immortal Past. When you guys played Immortal Past, I was like, you know, and every once in a while you'd be in my rotation. And then when you guys came out with a new album, I was like, I need to check that out. I never really got around to checking it out until I think it was either October or November, and it's when I heard that song, and I was like, and you guys had a video for it, and I was like, and it just talked about the chains and getting them off of you, and how that's not going to be the death of you, and just let Christ be that life in you. And I'm like, man, it just stirred something up. And then a few months later, our friend from North Carolina coming up and saying, "Now," and I was like,
Yeah.
man, now is the
Awesome.
time.
Yep.
Now is the time. And I got to thinking about it. Now can mean so many things. And I was just like, now is the time for, not only for us to pick our ministry back up and get back to doing what it is that we was doing, and then even pick up the stuff that I had put down that the Lord had laid on my heart. But also now is the time for us as a church to rise up and to go out and get outside of the four walls and get out there into the field. And it's a spiritual battle. And that's one of the things a lot of people be like, weapons of God. Well, what kind of name of band is that? I love it. And which leads me to ask you, how did you come up with the name?
Well, I think it was in the beginning, 2011. I started out with this band, and at the time there was a couple of members who agreed to jump in with me to do this Christian rock band. This is when I got back into church and everything else, got out of the ghost hunting scene. I was actually the church that I started going to that got me out of all that. What's funny is their guitar player was leaving, and this is the same church that Rochelle and my brother Mike was going to, and they wanted to know if I'd be interested in playing in the praise and worship team. And I was just like, what? But I have to admit, the first time I went to the church, I had heard contemporary Christian music for the first time. And one of those songs was Praise You in the Storm by Casting Crowns.
Yeah.
And when I heard them playing, I was bawling like a baby because I didn't know Christian music could be like this. I grew up in the red hymnal, at the cross, those songs, and I didn't know music existed like this. To me, it had like an 80s rock sound. But anyway, I just lost where I was going with this.
Weapons of God. The name of the band.
Heading towards Corey.
Ephesians 6.
Corey.
No, that's not where I was going. I lost track where I was going.
You started the band.
Oh yeah. So anyway, it inspired me to start the band. So anyway, yeah. So at the time, the band had a different name. It was called Dreams of Serenity, and that's the name we kind of stuck with. And well, things kind of fell apart along the way, and a friend of mine and myself, we decided, well, you know what, let's just do some home recordings. He had a home recording studio and everything else. Let's just do some home recordings, just right, and everything else, and just leave it at that. No ideal of starting a band. Let's just write some stuff and see what we could do. Well, I wrote the song called Weapons of God, inspired by the armor of God, Ephesians 6:10-20. And Billy, at the time, I told him, I said, man, what do you think about changing the name of the band to Weapons of God? He's like, yeah, that sounds a lot better than Dreams of Serenity, So it just kind of stuck from there. But, throughout the years, like 2013 and so on, I mean, I think it was 2015, maybe, 2015, I ran across a couple of members, they're past members, but it was 2016 when actually Leon joined the band. And actually what was funny about that is I needed a drummer, and Rochelle and Mike knew somebody that my brother worked with in the post office. His name was Danny Hayden. He was a drummer, and I guess he found out I needed a drummer through my brother, and he wanted to try out. I was like, sure, why not? He comes down the room, tries out, and he brings Leon with him. And what's funny, I'll never forget Danny. He shows up with this little tiny electronic drum kit. And I'm like, what is that, Rockstar? And yeah, he made that little drum set sing. I mean, he could play. I mean, it was amazing to watch him. So right from that moment, Danny was in and Leon was in. So Leon's been with me since 2016.
It was actually
Ed joined the band about, I'm sorry.
That was actually 2015. That was the end of 2015 when we did that. That was before Christmas.
Was it?
Just
I
before
thought
Christmas.
it was after New Year's. I thought it was because
It was in December, I want to say.
No, it was after DB left.
So we could argue about it, but Danny
Anyway.
Danny passed in 16.
Leon's still with us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, he passed in 16. Because Danny wasn't with us very long because, he started having the back issues. He was affecting his playing, so he quit the band for that reason. And then later he passed away. So, and then Ed, our bass player, he joined the band 2018, and then 2019, 2019, our past drummer Greg Stanham joined the band, but he's no longer with us, obviously, because now we have Jason here, and Jason's been with us for long enough. And
you can say too long, Steve. That's fine.
He's our unofficial drummer.
So yeah, I mean, members come and members go, but Leon and Ed, they've stuck it out with me the longest, and then now we got Jason, and we just continue on this drive ahead. Things have been good.
Yeah, I think we got a good group as far as we all get along well. We've all got a nice, I think, a pretty good sense of humor. It is, because drama is going to come always.
Yeah.
And I think the more solid that we are, as friends and just respect for each other, the better we are able to handle that drama when it does come, and keep pushing on. So, I mean, it's amazing to me sometimes, and I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of stories, but we could go down with this band. We could go down probably a list of happening after happening after happening that was struggle, the devil trying to beat us down, and God saying, "Nope, we're going to fix this," and then struggle trying to beat us down, and God steps in and said, "Nope, we're going to keep doing this." And this is what's going to happen next. And then there's times where you're going, "Oh, this is falling apart." And it's like God said, "Nope, not yet. Stay the path." So we've stayed the path and have been blessed because of it. So it's been uh, tremendous. I think I never dreamed at my age currently that I would still be gigging, let alone gigging out of state and around the country and that kind of thing. I was always sort of I like playing live, but I mostly just like playing, period, whether it was live or in a room by myself. Um, so for God to make a way for me to be able to do something that, I really wanted to do when I was in about seventh grade. It just, it's like, what do they say? God always answers prayer. So sometimes the answer is no, and sometimes the answer is wait. So it was never a big giant goal of mine to be, any kind of fame or anything like that. But I just always wanted to. I mean, for a long time, I think I've never been ashamed to share my worldview. I think anybody that knows me would tell you that. But like, for instance, just as an example, this Rox is releasing this 40th anniversary Striper tribute album for "To Hell with the Devil," and not necessarily my favorite Striper album, but it was probably the defining album for their career, the way that album broke out. So that's kind of where the emphasis is. And, when I was in sixth or seventh grade, I was a pretty big Striper fan. For the most part, at the time, was because certain things that I wanted to listen to, I couldn't because of, my dad wouldn't let me bring that stuff in the house. And then to think, here 40 years later, and in my case, for that, even more than 40 years later, to get the invitation to play on that record, even though initially I think I was a little skeptical about the whole thing, just because of, I don't know, somebody else saying, "Here, you play this song," as opposed to us saying, "Hey, we want to do this," kind of thing. And it was kind of, Rock's kind of assigned that track to us. And I think we did a good job with it, and I'm really looking forward because I want to have that physical CD in my hand. I'm a physical media guy, so I know they're on the way here. So
They're on the way.
do the pre-order and waiting for it to come in. But I'm really looking forward to having a hold of that. That really, I think, especially as time has gone since we've done it, and we've passed. Time has passed since we actually did the recording and put everything together for that and sent it off. Um, it's has been, I don't know, for me, because of my past and because of my experience with Striper and the way things went down with that, making me kind of want to do what I'm doing now, but it made me want to do it back then. And it didn't turn out that way. I played in a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of bands, but a few bands, and we played locally and stuff, but never did any real traveling or that kind of thing. So to be doing that now, and then for this to come along, it's just like a confirmation in my mind that says, I'm right where God wants me to be at the moment. So I'm in it wholeheartedly.
Well, I've taken up almost 2 hours of your guys' time, and I really appreciate y'all hanging in there with me.
Oh, enjoy the
No
talk.
problem.
Especially for this being the first one that,
Oh, good.
I'm glad that you guys were the first ones to do it. Like I said a second ago, it just shocks me that it just turned out to be you guys doing the first one, and I was like, when I got word that you guys would do it, I was containing my excitement. I did, you know, I was acting all cool. I was like, okay, thank you. inside I was having, but deep inside I was having a Wayne's World moment. You know, I'm not ready.
Yeah.
You can have us back for your 10th anniversary edition.
There you go.
Right on.
Because you know, a lot of people, was like, you know, this, I, you know, you catch wind of things that people say. It's like, it's just a phase he's going through, blah blah blah. No, this is something that I always wanted to do. You know, especially being from the Christian middle community, being in that scene myself, and coming from that background, and having the Lord use Christian metal to lead me, to, you know, to get me into it, and then believe it, and you know, I even tell people like, you know what, some of my Bible study, some of the things that draw me to study certain things came from Christian rock songs.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
especially when, you know, the very first Christian tape I ever bought was Deliverance Weapons of Our Warfare.
Nice.
You know, and man, I tell you, I spent months studying the Bible just based off what Jimmy had wrote, you know. And I was just like, wow, you know, and I've been a huge Deliverance fan ever since. You know, as the very first thing I ever bought. And then when he wrote the song 1990, you know, because that was the year that I gave my heart to the Lord when he came out with the CD Learn, and that song 1990 was on it. I was like, wow, you know, it's almost like it was talking to me. As for, you know, and I can just go on of different bands where I thought, you know, that song, the Lord's using that song for me right now. You know, just like with you guys back in, I'm pretty sure it was late October, early November, and here we are now. You know, and
Right.
I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad that the Lord used you guys to awaken me. You know, because I'm a firm believer that God puts certain things. You know, He puts things in your path at certain times. You know, in order to either to get us back on the right path or to wake us up or what have you. I believe wholeheartedly that He'll put things at a certain time in a certain place. He'll even put people in your lives at a certain time in a certain place to get you
Yep.
into the right direction. So I just want
Yep.
to thank you all for, you know,
Yeah.
taking the time to talk with me, talk and the first Truth and Tracks. I thoroughly enjoyed the conversations we had. It was
Nice.
it was
Yeah.
very insightful. You know that I there's a friend of mine. She does a Sunday school, and she said that they're now getting ready. She's getting ready to. We're I study the occult. I study the occult and stuff like that, and how the spiritual battles and all that. Now they're now studying, looking into not not truly occult activity, but that just that side of things, and how it's heavily influencing the world, and how we as a church need to wake up to it in some areas, you know. And I thank you all for your testimonies and the things you talked about, and your band,
Right
and
on. Yeah. Thanks for having us, man. I mean,
Yep.
I hang on to that belief because I believe it too. God definitely puts people in your path for a reason, whether it's people, things, objects. Um, so many stories that could be told about that kind of thing. And really, we said a bunch that we touched on a few with the band, but some of the things with the band, you know, I know Rochelle will agree with that. There's kind of those moments sometimes that happen where kind of the band kind of looks at each other and you go, hey, that was God. God
yeah,
just did that, you know. And I think we're experiencing some of that right now, and I'm very grateful. So it's pleasure meeting you this way. Hopefully, we get to meet in person someday, shake your hand and hug your neck, and
oh,
we
that'd
appreciate
be
you
all.
having us
You know,
on.
I was so when you guys were at the Mortal Fest, I happened to be over in Addison, Illinois, and I was like, man, I could just drive over there It's like a 4 or 5 hour drive. I could drive over there and get back, but it never happened. I was like, man, I was bummed. I was bummed for that.
That's because we were playing that weekend, see?
That's exactly right. But
Well, and just as a word of encouragement, I know you said you and your wife kind of pulled back a little bit. Um, the Sabbath wasn't made for God. The Sabbath was made for us to give us rest. And I've been at uh, periods of my life where I've just been going full throttle and giving so much to so many things. And even when I'm out of gas, somehow I feel that I gotta keep on going. And then there's a circumstance where God will kind of place a self-imposed Sabbath on me. It's like you just need to step away for a little bit. Um, so I felt guilty for doing that, but it's because I didn't take those Sabbaths along the way or those rests along the way that I felt like he really imposed that upon me. But then when he brought me back in, I felt like I had a much more healthy balance between that full throttle ministry and being able to pull back and recharge and take time for myself. So hopefully that'll be the same for you guys as well.
well, thank you.
That's a song right there, Full Throttle Ministry. There you go, write it down.
Yeah, it is.
Write it down.
AKA double barrel medicine.
Yeah.
I love that song too. By the way, that sounds awesome.
Cool.
Well, we'll definitely keep you and your wife definitely in prayer in your ministry. We will definitely do that.
I really appreciate that. You guys are on our prayer wall,
Right
not
on.
just as a band name, but individually as well.
Sweet.
Pray for you as a whole, as a band, and individually as well. That the Lord blesses your band, blesses you all individually.
You as well.
And He goes before you and everything that you guys do. That He continues to open doors for you, as a band, and continue to reach people. And no matter what comes y'all's way, no matter what obstacles come y'all's way, I pray that the Lord just knocks them all out of the way for you.
Right on.
I know you guys are growing, not only musically but spiritually as well. You guys are out there on the front lines, and I truly appreciate that. You guys are reaching a group of people that back in 1990, 1989, those like when the cassette was handed to me, and the church was shunning me because they knew I listened to Motley Crue. They knew I listened to Metallica. I had the long hair and the earring. Every time I walk into the church, it seemed like all they want to talk about is metal music and how it's of the devil, and that turned me off of the church. But all it took was somebody handing me a cassette with blood on it singing Crucify. And, I pray you guys the same adventures that, and the same soul uplifting. I pray that you guys reach as many souls as the Lord will have you to reach, even if it's just one. Even if you're out in a cornfield singing to cicadas.
Yep. That's it. Hey,
If I may ask,
we got
what's your wife's name?
Christina.
Christina. All right. She's having surgery at the end of the month then?
Yes.
All right.
So I appreciate you all so much. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us.
Yep.
Hopefully we can do this again.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'll tell you what, once she's done with her surgery and she pulls through, I'll get you guys back on here.
Right on.
Maybe she'll
Right
be
on.
Well,
and maybe she'll
Right
be able
on.
to sit in. Maybe she'll be able to sit in with us.
Cool. That'd be cool. Good.
Hey,
Absolutely.
All right.
I know, like y'all said, I know we haven't met physically, but hey, I love y'all. Be
Love
praying
you,
for
brother.
Love you, brother.
For you.
Prayers for you and the ministry and the wife. And
Indeed.
everything, that you do, that God will just bless you and continue to push you forward to spread the good news.
Indeed.
Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Y'all be blessed. Have a
You
good
too.
night.
Indeed.
You too. Thanks, man.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, this is Pastor Anderson's with Stand My Grounds. This is my this is my buddy Drake, and Drakey loves Bernie Torment chompers. He just loves these things. He loves them. They help with his digestive support because it's built right in there. It helps him with his cleans teeth, and it freshens his breath at the same time. And I tell you what, I tried it. I don't like it. I like the ice creams and the fudges. That's what I like. I don't like this that much, but Drakey loves these. Drakey loves them. They're designed with both texture and health in mind. They're powered by fiber, pro, and prebiotics to support oral and gut microbies. I think that's the word, microbies. Oh my goodness, they're formulated to be effective and digestible. Yes, they are. If you want fresher breath for your pet, cleaner breath, and a better digestive system, and if it's get Bernie's best chompers, and if it's a vitamin you're looking for, oh, they got omega-3s. They got fish oil omega-3s. Oh, yes, they do. They got omega-3s. They got omega-3s. Omega-3 they have. I tell you what, we could not get this fella right here to take any kind of fish oil, but this stuff right here, he likes it. He likes this stuff right here. Why? Because it's clean. It's clearly labeled chew that delivers real EPA and DHA. Now, I tell you what, it's 5 times more potent than most chews. That's right. And I tell you another thing. I tried it. It's not that good. I'd rather have the ice cream with the fudge. So, if you like, I tell you what, there's a link in the description. There is a link in the description to the Bernie's website, and you click on that link, and you go there, and you say, and you put in the code Stand My Ground, and you get 20% off of your order. You get 20% off anything you order. You'll get 25% off. You'll get 20% off in the store. But you know what? You can't order me no ice cream and fudge because they don't have it. So you guys just make sure to go here. Go to Bernie's. The link is in the description.